Good evening. Good evening. It is Monday. Is it Monday? I think it's Monday. Yes, it's Monday. And thank you for watching the update. Definitely have lost time is so relative in session. It's all like one long day. So sorry about that. But yeah, so today we had some pretty amazing visitors virtually. This morning, I was able to join other members of the Virginia Legislative Black Caucus, and we brought greetings to the members of Alpha, Kappa Alpha, Sorority Incorporated, and the members of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated as they jointly held their day at the Capitol today. Again, they were virtual. So we were able to talk about some of the bills that I'm carrying that align with their legislative agenda. A really well thought out legislative agenda, by the way. But how some of the bills that we're carrying align in both super obvious, but also some tangential ways. Like, for instance, voting rights is connected to everything. So it was really great to have that discussion and to see them. And then Delegate Bourne and I introduced them from the House floor to welcome them to the Capitol, but they were watching. So it was really cool. And it's just really, I think, encouraging to know that people are watching, they are paying attention, they know some of the bill numbers, they know some of the discussions that we're having, because as I will continue to let you know or remind you, everything that we're doing now is going to impact your life by July 1st, if not sooner. So all of the bills that we're passing or the bills that we're killing, what could have gotten to you or what will get to you, all of that is important. And if you ever have any questions or anything on the bills or the process, please let us know. So I had reminded folks on Twitter today that third reading is when we are voting on a bill. Second reading is when we're debating and asking questions on a bill. And then first reading is when it's just really informational, letting you know it's coming up, that it's just being posted for information at that point. Typically, they are one behind the other. So you have first reading one day, then the next day it's on second read, and then the next day it's on third. So one of the things that can happen on third reading is if you didn't feel like all of the points were exposed during debate, or if you needed to clarify something from second reading, that next business day when you have third reading, you can speak to the bill. And so on Friday, we had lively discussion about a supposed gun violence prevention bill, House Bill 833, that I've gotten really great feedback on based off the introduced version. And so I think some of the talking points that I heard from folks were dealing with the bill as it was introduced. But that bill had a dramatic change as a substitute, which is an amendment or a whole new bill. And so I really don't think that the talking points we were hearing applied to the new version of the bill. And so I gave remarks today discussing how the new bill is not the way we should be going. It really is straight out of the 1990s, early 2000s, 20 years ago, when we're thinking about what's new and innovative when it comes to gun violence prevention. And also, just a general understanding outside of Virginia, everyone else seems to understand that you can't mass incarcerate your way out of gun violence prevention. And so I raised some points, and I'll link that video so you can just see how you're still able to speak to the bill right before the vote. That bill did pass in a bipartisan manner, which is still so interesting to me. But the Senate companion died in the Senate. And so it seems safe to assume that this one will die there. So we had this other version where it actually was $27 million going into developing a centralized location for best practices, information, grants, and like an office of gun violence prevention, right? And that version is moving forward through the Senate, but then the House is going to kill it. So then the House bill is going to get over there, which is 7 million, a $20 million deficit from what's currently in the budget, is going to go over to the Senate and be killed. And so all I'm just making sure is that we get to the best way of doing this, but that we get to the best way of doing this. And so there's another part of the conversation that will occur in budget negotiations when we're discussing the Senate version and the House version of the budget. And will we have $27 million to actually address gun violence prevention in a comprehensive and community-based way? Or will we have $7 million, which is basically adding more to what law enforcement is already doing, something that when we were looking at some of the police reform bills, law enforcement agreed that they didn't want anything else on their plate. And also, I have heard law enforcement say that we cannot arrest ourselves out of this program, out of the problem, excuse me. So I really want to make sure that the gun violence prevention efforts that we're discussing, that we give merit to, are actually addressing the root causes within economics, mental health, and really creating a different trajectory for especially the youth that have gotten involved in gun violence prevention. So you'll hear me talk about PEER, which is prevention, intervention, enforcement, and reentry. You cannot get to solving the issue of gun violence by solely investing in one. It's all four pieces. And I would venture to say that we would want to put even more in prevention, because as you're seeing in places like even Texas, whether you get to the table for violence prevention because you care about communities or because you care about the bottom line, whichever brings you to the table, the answer is not more incarceration, because that is more costly to humans, but also more costly to the state. So it's really interesting to watch Virginia go backwards on just so many issues. But that was one from today, so you can take a look at that. Also, would definitely encourage for you to listen to Delegate Munden King's Black History speech, where she uplifts Lauryn Hill lyrics as she beautifully tells of the history and the present, and why a full and true education, especially of our history, is so needed. So that was today. I do caution you that this week is a marathon, not a sprint. So you all will start hearing us talk about crossover. Crossover, for those that don't know, is the day that the bills that pass the House cross over to the Senate, and the bills that pass the Senate cross over to the House. Well, the last day for us to take any action on bills is the 15th, before crossover happens on the 16th. So the House has to take up all of the House bills that have been docketed by the 15th. And so when you look at like subcommittee schedules and committee schedules, you will start seeing longer dockets, because we have to, go through the full process. And I should reiterate those that have been docketed, because there are some bills that have not even been docketed, meaning they're not even on the agenda to discuss. And so that means that they will not get a fair hearing, a fair public hearing, if they don't get docketed. So that's something to pay attention to as we get closer and closer to crossover. So that's all I have for today. We have a couple more meetings this evening, and then tomorrow we are right back at it. As always, if you have any questions, let us know. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening.